Anyway, I'll do a little bit of story time. The Anthony Bourdain thing. I'll see if I can tell this story without being. I'm just going to have to be careful because I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone. Anyway, you'll get what I mean in a minute once you hear the story. Anthony Bourdain. Turns out that there was. I never actually met him in the end. My brother met him. And he married a person that we know very, very well. And it's amazing. It's very, very sad what happened with him. But it's kind of amazing to reflect on the whole chronology of that story. And just thinking about it when somebody, asked me in the comments there recently, I was thinking about that story and I thought, God, it is an amazing kind of little window into how we got through our years. So as you guys know, I was in a rock band for many, many years and we struggled for a long time trying to make it. We did to a certain degree. We did definitely some great accomplishments that many great bands, even better than us, never got to do. So I'm very, very grateful. I've no regrets about it. We were very lucky. But I was just thinking about the whole thing. So years ago, we were here in Italy. We came to Italy centuries ago. We were just in our early 20s. We were invited here by a music producer, and that was the whole Italian introduction. Otherwise, we would have never come to Italy at all. And we were supposed to make a record with this producer guy, but he turned out to be a difficult character, and we wound up kind of parting ways with him, but we stayed in Italy because we were having fun, because we were, Italy's a beautiful place to live, and our band was received very well by the locals here. We're going back now a long time. And as a way of paying the rent, we'd do gigs, mostly cover gigs, playing covers in nightclubs and so on, 5-6 nights a week to pay the rent. We wouldn't earn much money. When looking back at it, we didn't earn much money, but at the time it was enough. And we'd be playing clubs like till 3-4 in the morning, U2 covers and stuff. The Italians loved us because we sounded like U2 when we played U2. The Italians, no matter how great they are, like bands here, musicians, some amazing music, like rock musicians, but they never quite sounded like the real deal, when it came to playing Blur or Oasis or U2 in particular, things like that. Because they're just Italians. They don't have that temperament in their playing. And when their singer would sing, the diction was not there. If you ever go to a soccer match in Italy, you'll often hear people singing "We Are the Champions" by Queen. So they'll sing "We Are the Champions," because it's an anthemic song for a soccer match. But they'll say things like "We are the champions of the world," not of the world, but of the world, because the Italians don't hear the RLD at the end of world, So to them, it's fine. But if you get up on stage and you sing "We Are the Champions" and you say "of the world," they'll hear something in there and they'll go, "Oh, that sounds like the real thing." They don't know what they just heard, but they recognize it. So, we're 23, 24 years old. I was. The lads are a couple of years younger than me. And we get up and we'd sing fucking U2, we'd sing with or without you. And the Italian kids would be like, holy shit, it sounds really like the real thing. Of course it does. We're all from Ireland. We're all from Dublin, like from down the street from where you two were. So it's like, it's very easy for a bunch of Dubliners to sound like you too. And my brother could do all that edge guitar stuff with the delay sound effect, and the singer was great, and he was able to fucking sing anything. Just give him any singer to sing, he could do it. So we were good, and we got a lot of gigs. We were booked out all over the fucking place. Our managers would pick us up. We had 2 managers, and they'd pick us up early evening and drive us to nightclubs all over northern Italy. And this is before we even got to America. America's a whole other chapter. You realize how long your life is when you have multiple kind of big chapters that you can talk about. It's hard to even know where to start. But it was interesting because we had a lot of girls, right? A lot of girls came to the gigs. Our singer was beautiful. He's a beautiful looking guy. He looked like a fucking model, We were all pretty good looking fellas, but this guy was crazy. He actually did a little modeling on the catwalk and stuff years later. And he had a voice like you've never heard. And he had green eyes and a blonde kind of complexion from Ireland. So the fucking Italian girls were just absolutely in love with him, And some of the girls in the crowd were like, yeah, he's all right, but I like him, and I like him. Because that's just the way of the thing, when you're in a rock band. Most girls come for the singer, and then there's those couple of dark girls in there who are like, he's like a vanilla latte, but I want a straight espresso. I want that bass player because he looks like he's going to tear me up in bed or whatever. They have these ideas, these fantasies. And so we were really popular with the ladies. In fact, I remembered one friend of ours. A lot of Italians really wanted to be our friends, like guys, Some of these guys had a lot of money. And they just wanted to be friends with us because we were so different. We were a good band, and we attracted a lot of girls, So they were like, come over to my house for dinner, or let's go out. And they'd bring us all sorts of places. And we were constantly being fed all over Italy. It was crazy. Well, all over North Italy. It was fun. They were fun times. But I remember this bass player guy who's a big fan. He had to stand in for me. I had something to do because I had a daughter very soon. When I got to Italy, I met a woman very special. And that's my daughter's mom. And we got straight to work, quite honestly. And we had my daughter. So I very quickly became a family man. While the rest of the guys were all single and still rocking out and just doing the rock and roll thing. I was doing the rock and roll thing on stage, but then getting straight in a cab and going straight home to my family and my newborn, doing all of that. So it was a weird dynamic. But I remember I had something going on and I couldn't make this certain gig. There's some family event or something, and my daughter's mom was like, you have to come to this. Find someone else to play your gig. I'm like, okay. Pretty stern woman, And I remember the guy, he knew all the songs anyway, and I handed him my bass, and he's like, oh, it's so great to play your bass. He's a big fan. It was great. It was a great moment. It was fun, but man, he was in tears. He played the gig, and like the whole week afterwards, he was just saying to all his mates, like, "Quante fighe, quante fighe." That means how many hot girls. He's like on the stage, just in tears, going, "Look, every hot girl from the region is standing in front of me right now, because we were just magnets. And we were a good band. It wasn't just whatever, the singer or whatever. We were a fucking good band. We were really good. I'm not going to lie. So, this is the way it worked. I have to start being careful now. So this is how it worked. So the lead singer had if there was 100 girls there ready to just drop their panties for the lead singer, there was about 25 in front of me who decided, yeah, he's all right, but I like him because he looks darker and more dangerous, or whatever they were into. It was a different flavor, So I got a lot of action. Now, I was a very good boy back then. Later, I wasn't. That was years later. But back then, I was a very good boy. I'd go home to my girl and to my kid, and, I wasn't up to any shenanigans. In fact, I earned the name Il Cagone, which means the guy who doesn't talk to anyone, who doesn't give a shit and ignores everyone and goes straight home. That was my nickname for a while. Not that my daughter's mom recognized that. She was still fucking jealous, but whatever. That was a fight I gave up fighting a long time ago. But so this is how it worked. The singer got the most attention. And he's the singer. I mean, that's pretty normal, right? I got about the second most. And then there was my brother, who was on guitar, and the drummer. Now, the drummer always liked to have a nice, steady girlfriend. He did get a lot of attention, but he always liked to have a good girl. He's a kind of a salt of the earth kind of character. And then there was my brother. Now, my brother didn't get as much attention from all the girls, but when he did, it was intense. I hope he doesn't mind me say this shit. When a girl decided they liked my bro, he was on the other side of the stage, very opposite end. He was on guitar and doesn't look like me much at all. He was blonde, kind of redheaded and dark. We look like we're from different families. But when the girls liked him, man, oh man, they liked him. And he would have these obsessed girls over the years. One girl got a tattoo of his fucking initials on her arm. She barely knew him, We're like, oh my God, dude, when you get them, you really get them. Fucking hell. So we got some gigs in a town called Brescia, which is about an hour and a half from the town we were living in, which is Vicenza, which is where I started the channel. You recognize it from, the COVID videos and all that. I need a drink because I'm just like thinking about this whole life. I was living with my family, she wasn't my wife. We never got married, but with her and our newborn, and we had a little family life in a lovely little apartment in the center of Vicenza. It was like 1,000 centuries ago. And but the lads were all like sharing apartments, together. And they'd hop from, I did some of this too as well before Lydia was born. We'd hop from apartment to apartment. We'd be thrown from place to place. We had no money. We're fucking broke as hell. And we're just going from place to place. And honestly, we'd be waiting for the phone to ring from one of these adorning fans who'd want to bring us to dinner or something like this, or some friends who are like, oh, come on, we're all going out to have a big meal or pizza or whatever. We'd be like, great, like we're going to eat today, And we'd get bounced around from apartment to apartment. Actually, it was a funny thing because a friend of mine, he was a big right winger, I remember. He's this kind of, I haven't talked to him for a very long time. But, politically we were extreme opposites, but he was a really, really intelligent guy. And we used to have great conversations. And he was in real estate. He would rent apartments, and he would find us apartments that were not being rented yet, or were between renters, between tenants. So they were empty. And he would like get cash from us, and we'd go live in that apartment for like 3 months or 6 weeks or whatever before someone rented the place. Then we'd have to get the hell out of there, you know? So we were bouncing around apartments for years, frankly. And one of the interesting things about some of those apartments where they were, what did he call them? Tradimento apartments. Tradir is betrayal apartments. So what's a betrayal apartment? A betrayal apartment. And I'm going to go on tangents like this, and you're going to keep saying, where's the Anthony Bourdain bit? But just stick with me, okay? This is a long show. We've got time. You've got a drink and a smoke in your hand, I hope. So a betrayal apartment is what would happen a lot in Italy, and I assume it still happens, is a couple fall in love, they get married, they move into an apartment together, and a couple of weeks later, she walks in and he's screwing her best friend or something like that, right? These Italian men are pigs. So there's lots of tradimento, betrayals, right? Cheating. And then, of course, all bets are off. Fuck you, you asshole. She leaves, he leaves, the whole thing is off. And the apartment winds up just empty. They signed a year lease or a 4-year lease. They only lived in it for a few months. And now all bets are off. And now the place is fucking empty until further notice. And he would rent us these apartments that were empty because, you know, we'd come in and see like the big matrimonial bed and go, oh, that's where he was doing the deed. Oh, right, fair enough, you know. It's like, well, let's get settled, guys. You know, that was our life for a while. It was fucking nuts. The guys wound up in an apartment on Corso Palladio, which is like the biggest Corso, the biggest street, main street in Vicenza, very expensive. And they wound up with this penthouse apartment, but they were living in there and there was no electricity. You know, whoever was presiding over the place just stopped paying the bill. And the lads were just one day like electricity was off. So they had no power. I think they lived in that apartment for like 4 or 5 or 6 months. Luckily, it was over the summer where you didn't need heat and so on. But the Italians have ways of keeping, they're not big AC air conditioning fans. In Italy, they don't really go crazy for air conditioning. They have old-fashioned ways of dealing with, you know, cooling an apartment. The Italians. One thing you can actually see right in this shot, you see that floor that looks all dark, pukey looking? That's like the most expensive flooring you can get in Italy. It's called pavimento veneziano. It's Venetian flooring. And people all over Italy, even people way outside Venice, lust after pavimento veneziano. It's ugly to look at, but it's millions of little, hundreds of thousands of little pieces of stone, of assortments of stone, all put into the pavement, the pavimento, as they say, the floor, and it disperses heat, and it's really good for those hot summers because they get brutal hot summers here. So when you walk into an apartment, you're going to rent somewhere in Italy, you see pavimento veneziano, you're like, oh fuck, that's a plus, you know, check mark. Wow, they have pavimento veneziano in there because it's really good. You walk around barefoot, and it's really cool during the summer. The other thing they do is they have shutters here in Italy. They shut the light out, like in the most brutal way. Like most of us, if you're American or Irish or English or whatever, you're probably used to, pulling the blinds or pulling the curtains. But in the morning, there's some light coming in from somewhere Italians don't want that. Italians have these crazy shutters. They look like store shutters that are on all the windows. And they have this rope thing next to some fancy places have like a button that makes it go up and down. But above every window, there's this big unit where this big shutter rolls down. And just before it closes completely, there's these cracks in between the pieces that lets a little light in. And that's good enough for me. I like to see a little light in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I like to know if it's morning, you know. If it's dark, I know it's still 5 a.m. or whatever. But if there's light coming through those cracks, there's a little bit of light, I know it's 7, 8, 9, whatever it is. The sun is up. Italians don't want that. They want the extra crack. Then when those pieces come together, poof, you can't see the hand in front of your face. That's how Italians like to sleep. You have no idea what time it is. They want utter darkness. When I used to go here, I used to come to Venice years ago with the doctor I lived with. And then she was classic like that. Unbelievable. And it was really disconcerting to me, but like you had to, it was her way or the highway kind of thing. And I used to come out to the Excelsior Hotel out here in Lido. Beautiful hotel. I used to bring her out there and treat her like a fucking queen as always, you know. But we'd always change room because I'd get the regular room because it's super fucking expensive. So I'd get a standard room. And that would normally have like wooden shutters or whatever, which is fine for Americans and English and whatever. And I would always check in and then go straight down, back down to the check-in, to the concierge or whatever, and say, listen, we need to move room. My wife's Italian. I'd just say wife. I wasn't married to her, but just to make things easy. My wife's Italian. And they go, oh shit. I'd be like, yeah, we need the shutters. She can't sleep in that room. They'd be like, oh, so sorry, sir. She's Italiana. Okay, we'll move you to the other side of the building where they have those things. So these are all ways of keeping the heat out of an apartment. Why am I talking about this? Oh yeah, because the lads were in this apartment with no AC at all during the summer. But it wasn't as bad as it would be in a country that doesn't know how to deal with temperature problems. Like this building where I am here is made of such heavy marble and concrete. When you go down the stairwell, down to the bottom floor to walk out, it's cool down there. Even if it's 40 degrees outside, it's cool down there. The Italians have been doing this shit for 3,000 years. They know exactly what to do with heat. So anyway, they managed to figure that out. So they were living in this apartment. I was like, this is fucking nuts. I used to go over with bottles of wine to see the lads. I'm like, still not, where's the music coming from? Oh, we bought some batteries for a little radio, you know. Didn't matter. And they'd take cold showers. That was the kind of life that we were leading for a while. Getting back to Brescia. So we played this place, Brescia, big, beautiful town. About 2 hours from here, about an hour and a half from Vicenza. And it was a big, like restaurant that turns into a club after a certain hour. And it was cool. We had never played really Brescia much. I didn't spend much time in Brescia at all. It was kind of a town you'd pass on the way to Milano or something like that. Interestingly enough, my daughter was born in Brescia, but outside Brescia, a little town called Gavardo, because they do natural births there and stuff. That's a whole other story. I'm not going to stop on that one. But there we were in Brescia for the first time, going, oh, this is interesting. Nice big square, cool town. All these Italian towns, they're all different and all the same in many ways. So we're there and we go into this place and they feed, all these places are feeding us. And when an Italian restaurant club or whatever feed you, they really feed you, you know. So we'd get in and do our sound check and get all the gear ready. Everything sounds good. Okay, great. Now we'll go eat. And there'd be a big table reserved for us. And we'd sit down and they'd fucking stuff our faces. I was a big eater back then. I was quite overweight, actually. And I wasn't a drinker back then, believe it or not. It was all food. And so they'd stuff us like pigs. And then we go up and do our gig at around whatever, 9:30, 10 p.m. and play a 2 or 3 hour set. So it was a cool place. And it was like once a month for a few months. And we went back like a month later. We're like, oh, that place again, great. Like the food they had there was amazing. Great. Okay, great. We're playing this place. So we get up on stage and it's slowly turning from a restaurant into a club, at 9:30, 10. It kind of shifts, the whole place shifts into a club and all the attention is on the stage. And there's a girl. And she's standing right in front of the stage. A lot of people right in front of the stage, but we noticed this girl. I swear I have to be careful. And why do we notice this girl? We notice this girl because she has a huge chest. All right, listen, Italian women, they have the greatest legs in the world. All Italian women have beautiful figures, most of them, especially here in the north. They're beautiful, slender women, thigh gap, the whole thing. Perfect little asses. The Italian ass, that's not, sorry girls who are watching, this is conversation for the boys, but it's mostly boys in the crowd. Just blast through it, okay? The Italian ass is amazing. It's a phenomenon. The Italian ass, it's like they got the black ass. It's amazing. An Italian's legs go up and then the ass comes out like this. That's the Italian ass. It's an amazing thing. But there are very few Italian girls with heavy chests. It's just a fact of life. They have everything else and they're beautiful girls. But a lot of Italian girls are not flat. It's rare that you see a big bombastic chest. And if you do, she's either very overweight or which is extremely rare in Italy and especially in the north, or they're fake. She's in her 30s and her husband bought her a pair or whatever. It's just a rare thing to see a big, heavy pair of boobs, right? So we were all like, we're on the stage, we're fucking 25 years old, little perverts, We're just like, holy shit, did you see your one there? Oh my God, look at that. Like her cleavage was like 10 inches long, We're like, wow. And she's really showing it off. She's definitely aware of it, and she's proud of it. And she has a fucking tiny skirt on as well. I was like, oh my God, this girl is really, she's got her assets and she's showing them. God damn it. And we've never seen her before. She's just standing there. But she focuses on my brother. And we're all like, she's just smiling, looking at him the whole time. She's not looking at the beautiful singer or any of us. She's looking at him. So, of course, the joke between me and the singer, we're like, here we go. Like, my brother, when he gets them, they're mad focused on him, So we take a little pause in the gig and he starts talking to her, or she goes over and talks to him. And we're like, oh my God, here we go. Like she's all over him. Like, this is crazy. And then we get up and we do our second half of the gig. And then afterwards they're talking again. And we're like, oh, go for it, man, go for it. The tetona. Tetona is a heavy-chested girl, La tetona. So it turns out that my bro didn't get her number, and didn't share much personal information with her at all. I would have been like, I mean, I was with the girl, I was with my daughter's mom at the time. But if I wasn't, I would have been like, oh, like, here's my number. Like, let's hang out. I'll come to Brescia tomorrow on the train, or whatever. No problem. But I don't think that happened. He was charming and funny and great. And she was just falling in love right there on the spot. But he didn't do it. I guess he had no game at all. He was just like, all right, well, I better pack up my gear. And then we left. We drove home. It was like an hour and 20 minutes home. So she didn't have any info on him at all. And the next day, the lads, they had moved out of that apartment that I mentioned, the one with no electricity, that was right slap bang in the center of Vicenza. They were kicked out eventually. Whoever wasn't paying the electric bill wasn't paying the rent, whatever problem was happening. So they were eventually told, guys, you got to get the fuck out of here. We found you somewhere else. Some guy's after cheating on his wife out in Alta Villa, so go out there now. So they were all pushed out to a little town called Alta Villa, which is outside of Vicenza. Vicenza is already a fairly small town as it is. Alta Villa is Provincia di Vicenza, the province of Vicenza, one of these little forgotten towns outside of there with nothing, just like a bunch of houses and a church and a little supermarket, and that's it. Like, nobody gives a shit about Alta Villa. But they got this place out there, and it had a few bedrooms, and great. And that's where they were living. They were just being shifted around all over the place. So now they're in Alta Villa. So the next day, they get a call from friends saying, hey, we're all going to the beach. Just friends that we had in the area. We're all going to the beach. You want to go to the beach? And the lads are like, fuck it, let's go to the beach. What else are we going to do? We've got a couple of days off, no gigs to play. Let's all fucking go to the beach. They're going to pick us up at noon. And off they go to the beach. I'm with my, essentially, wife. My baby mama and my baby, doing that whole married man kind of, daddy life. But the lads are fucking off to the beach. Good for them. So it must have been like a Saturday. So they're going to spend the weekend at the beach. And they came back a couple of days later to Alta Villa, this fucking middle of nowhere place. And they come up to the door, and there's a note on the door. Pinned to the door is a piece of paper, and they take it down and they open it, and it says, Emmett, which is my brother's name. You've seen him on the channel before. You've seen him on iBashers. I found you. It says, Emmett, I found you. You're like, what the fuck? And it's signed her name. I'm not going to say her name because that'll give away the whole game. I'm going to keep calling her the girl from Brescia. I'll call her Brescia girl. This is what happened. Get ready. Okay. So Brescia girl goes home that evening with no phone number and no information. All she knows is she saw this smiley, charming, brilliantly talented guitarist, and she fell fucking in love. That's all she knows. So the next day, she comes back into the center. She's not from Brescia. She's actually from a town called Desenzano, which is situated on a beautiful lake called Lake Garda Lake, Lago di Garda. There's two big lakes up here. There's Lake Como, where George Clooney lives, and Lago di Garda. It's fucking picturesque. It's an amazing place. But Brescia's not far, so she'd drive into Brescia like to go and see a band or go to a restaurant or whatever. So she drives into Brescia, and she's looking for my brother because she thinks maybe this is a local band. Like, we live in Brescia. We don't. We fucking live an hour and a half away. He didn't tell her that. She has no clue. So she walks around. I swear to God, this is all true. I wish I was exaggerating. None of this is in any way exaggerated. In fact, if I wanted to embellish this story, I'm sure I could very easily, but I'm trying to be careful and respectful here. I really hope my brother's wife is not watching this. Mind you, she's nothing to worry about, like, but, women. Anyway. So this girl, Brescia girl, Desenzano girl, we might call her, comes into the center of Brescia and she doesn't know where to start. She goes to the venue and the venue's closed because it doesn't open till the evening. So she starts walking around Brescia and asking people on the street, do you guys know of a band that play in that venue down the street? I can't remember the name of the place. Do you know of this band, these Irish guys? And they're really good and they play once a month or whatever. And they played here the other night. And most people, of course, in Brescia don't know us. That's not our stomping ground there at all. So most people are like, well, I don't know who the fuck you're talking. Sorry, ma'am. No idea what you're talking about. And she just keeps asking and asking people around Brescia in the piazza and so on. Do you know of this? And eventually, of course, she bumps into someone who says, oh yeah, I know those guys. I saw them the other night. And they were there last month. And she goes, where are they? And he goes, I don't think they're here. Don't they live in Vicenza? They don't live here. They live in Vicenza. Boom. She jumps in her car. She drives an hour and a half to Vicenza. Parks her car in Vicenza. This is a town of 110,000 people. And now she starts walking around the center of Vicenza asking people, do you know of this Irish band? Do you know of this Irish band? Now, this is our stomping ground, so it's way higher probability that she's going to bump into someone who does know us because they would watch us every week. We'd play the local clubs there and everybody knew us. So I'm sure it was only a matter of 10 or 15 minutes before she ran into someone who said, yeah, fucking I know them. I see them every weekend. And of course, most of them are going to say, I don't know where they live, but they're definitely here. And, everybody knows them here. But she must have walked into some bar somewhere, probably Bar Italia. Now that I think of it, it was probably Bar Italia on Corso Palladio. Now that I think of it. And that's the right person. And the person said, I don't know who, but someone said, oh yeah, the lads, Mr. North. Yeah, all the lads from Dublin. Yeah, they don't live here. They used to live down the street there in this apartment with no electricity. But they're out in Alta Villa now. Boom, she gets into the car and she drives to Alta Villa. It's amazing. This is before the internet, guys. The internet was there, but it was shit, right? It wasn't like today. You can just completely find out everything about someone just by typing in their name. This is way before that. This is like grassroots shit, investigatory journalist kind of stuff, right? So she goes out to Alta Villa. Can you imagine this girl? She's probably never been in this little shit town ever. And of course, now there's no Corso there where people are walking up and down. There's no shops and shopping areas where people are just walking around, sitting at cafes. It's much more kind of rural kind of place. So what does she do? She goes up to a bus stop. And there's an old lady at the bus stop. And she says, excuse me, senora, have you seen any young men speaking English, Americans? Because, of course, everybody thought we were like old people here would think we're Americans because they'd hear us speaking English. And we look different. So they would just assume we're Americans, right? Have you seen any little Americans walking around? And of course, the old woman, of course, she knows because old Italian women are like fucking CIA. They're watching everyone on the street. They know everything about every movement you make. They're like the ultimate security cameras, you know, and they're all talking to one another at the supermarket or whatever, gossiping, you know, old Italian women. Oh, have you seen those fellas who moved in there and they're speaking English and, you know, they keep coming home in the middle of the night, whatever. They knew everything. So she was like, oh, yeah, the Americans, yeah, they just moved in here like a few weeks ago. They're down there, third house down. She knew exactly where the fuck the boys were. So Brescia girl goes straight to that apartment and rings the fucking doorbell. But the lads are at the beach. They're gone for the weekend. So no success, but she leaves a note, which my brother then finds when he comes back. Well, he of course calls her and they start fucking dating because it's so easy. Like she's obsessed with him. And his whole life changed overnight because she's rich. Her father is like a big dentist. He has a dentistry clinic or something. And even though the socialized healthcare in Europe, if you're in dentistry, you can make a lot of money because dental work is considered cosmetic after a certain age. I don't know what age it is here in Italy, but in Ireland, dentistry is like, it's free, like all healthcare is over here, until you're like 16 or something. Like while your teeth are figuring themselves out, it's all covered by the state. But beyond 16 or 18 years old or something, it's cosmetic. You don't need it. It's like getting a boob job or a nose job. You don't fucking need it. You can survive without it. So if you want to get it done, fine, you got to pay. Whereas before that, like you're a little kid and you need your fucking tooth pulled out because it's rotting or something, that's covered by the state, right? So that's socialized healthcare. So if you're in dentistry, you're probably making good money. Dentists make more money in Italy than even big shot doctors. I lived with a big shot doctor for 2 years and she wasn't earning great money. If she was in America, she'd be earning $1 million a year. But over here, it doesn't work that way. Doctors aren't super rich. They live well, they live comfortably, but you don't see like a super wealthy doctor walking around Italy unless they have their own clinic and they're doing cosmetic work like facelifts, nose jobs, boob jobs, dentistry, etc., etc. Then it's different. Then it's up to you to pay, and they make a lot of money. So this girl, she's her father's a dentist, and he's freaking loaded, and she's loaded. And next thing, like we're walking down the street, and my brother's pulling up next to us in a fucking Audi A6, driving with his blonde with the big boobs sitting next to him. You know, he's living the life of Riley. It's crazy. And we're like, look at you, fucking James Bond. What the hell happened? Like, you know, he's like, oh, yeah, we're driving off to the mountains tonight. We're going to eat in some crazy restaurant. I'll see you guys later. Bye. You know, he's just shooting off in this car. That's where he cut his teeth with driving. He already had a license when he came to Italy, but he didn't really get to use it much in Ireland, unfortunately. And he really learned to master his driving. He's a great driver. His driving skills in Italy, which is one hell of a place to learn how to fucking drive, because they don't. What's the old joke on the driving license application? It said tear down the dotted line, and they took it literally. They tear down the dotted line. That's exactly what the Italians do. The Italians drive their cars as fast as the car will go. That's Italian driving. The car is either stopped or it's going as fast as the car can possibly go in any single direction. There's nothing in between for the Italians. Their passion for automobiles is crazy in this country. Not for nothing, they built the Ferrari and the Lamborghini and the Maserati and all of that. It's a huge passion here. And some of the best drivers I've ever met in my life are, of course, Italian, including women. I know there's a stigma about female drivers around the world, but put an Italian girl behind a fucking steering wheel, that'll reshape your ideas about that trope immediately. So he's living this life, and she's, of course, she's paying for everything. We're broke. So, he's living this great life. And they become a serious item. And eventually the band, she's, of course, coming to the gigs and standing there with her revealing tops and her little short skirts and her big smile. And we're like, there she is with bells on. And we eventually went back to Ireland. And you're still wondering what's the Anthony Bourdain connection. Wait for it. It's going to blow your head off. We go back to Ireland, and she comes with him. She comes with us as a band, and she lives in our house. They're together in the attic room where that was my bedroom when I was a kid, and I'm hopping between Italy and Ireland, and then I get a place with my baby mama in Dublin, and they're there for a good spell in my mom's house, where my mom still lives. And then the band, we play a gig in Dublin just for shits and giggles one night. We were no one in Dublin. We had left Dublin. But there were some people in Dublin who were aware of the band. So we'd play a gig every now and then and sell a few tickets. And we played this little shitty gig in a place called the White Horse Inn, which is on the Quays, which is now a Starbucks, very sadly, on the Quays there in Dublin. We played upstairs to about 20 people. It was a shitty little gig, but we just wanted to play a gig. And by sheer miracle, a guy who was involved in the music industry in New York happened to be coming through Dublin on his way to London. His flight got cancelled, and he had to do a layover for the evening in Dublin. So he said, fuck it, I'm going to go into Dublin city centre and find a good pint of Guinness. And he was with his girlfriend at the time, who was also in the music industry. And they said, they asked people, like, where's a good pint of Guinness? And people are like, oh, the White Horse is good. So they went to the White Horse, and they wandered upstairs, and they saw our band by sheer accident. And he went, oh my God, I got to bring these guys to New York. I got to get them signed. So he approached us and maintained contact, and then eventually invited us to go to New York. And that was the beginning of the whole America stretch of our career, which is like a whole other huge chapter. It's like going from Godfather Part 1 to Godfather Part 2. It's like there's like a million stories in each different series. So we go to America. We play a ton of gigs, and we're coming back and forth from Dublin. We even go back over to Italy for a little stretch, and then we come back to Dublin, and we're going back over to America. And then it's like, you guys have to come over to America. You can't just be taking these flights all the time. You've got to just come over. We'll get you an apartment. You've got to play a ton of gigs. You've got to showcase your music to all these record companies. And we've got to make big stars out of you. So we're like, fine. So we go to America, and we eventually get this apartment in Astoria in Queens. You guys know where that is? Not far from LaGuardia Airport on Queens Boulevard. Now, by then, we'd been back and forth to America, and our drummer had met a lovely Irish-American girl who said, yes, I'll take that. Thank you very much. And she took him into her apartment. So all of a sudden, he's living the little family life with her. So he had his own place to stay and live, but we didn't. So we got this big apartment that had 3 bedrooms. There was one big matrimonial bedroom, so that was my brother and Brescia girl together. And then there was 2 small bedrooms, so the singer's in one and I'm in another. And we just start gigging. We start doing showcases for record companies, and that shit went on for ages. It took us a couple of years before we got a record deal. We're fucking lucky we ever got one. But it's a struggle because there's a lot of bands that are great and they're all looking for the same thing. Entertainment industry is fucking brutal. But we're young and stupid. Young, dumb, and full of calm, right? And so we're just going for it. And we're playing gigs. And fuck, I remember her father, the dentist, came to New York to see her. I don't know where she went. I know that the rest of the guys in the band went back to Ireland to renew their visas because we had to do it every year back then. I said, no, I'm hanging on here. I'll go home at Christmas and I'll do mine at Christmas. So I stayed. And that was the first week of September in 2001. And they left. Her father was in town, but I think she went back with him to Ireland and said goodbye to her dad, who had his flight the following day, September 11th, 2001. And this man didn't have a word of English. He was a lovely man. He's very quiet, soft-spoken man. And he had his flight the following day. And of course, that flight never happened because we all know what happened that day, right? So the poor man sat in the apartment for, I think it was 4 days, on the same chair, watching the reruns of the fucking planes flying into the towers over and over again, because that's all that was on TV for days and days. And the poor guy couldn't understand a word of English. And I had to translate everything for him. And I kept asking him, would you like a cup of coffee, sir? And, like trying to make the man feel comfortable, but he was terrified and in a very strange place and was witnessing something that was surreal. We didn't know what the fuck was going on in New York. There was a lot of paranoia going around. I mean, around the whole world, it was shocked everyone, but imagine being in New York and watching it all firsthand. It was, come back from that shit ever. I had an Italian in town at the time. That was a whole other story that I told before, but there was a completely different Italian I haven't mentioned yet, but she had flown into town on my birthday, which is about a week earlier. And I was already kind of getting involved with this California girl, this tall blonde with long legs, California, completely different kind of woman. So that was a fucking disaster. And I stayed out that night. On September 10th, I went out and hung out with her all night and wound up sleeping over where she was staying, and woke up to the phone call of the roommate's girlfriend going, pick up the fucking phone, a plane flew into the building. We went up on the roof and we watched all that shit go down. That's a whole other story. But I went back to the Italian girl was texting me eventually when text started working again, because it wasn't working for hours. She's like, where the fuck are you? Where did you disappear to? I was being unfaithful, but honestly, I told the story before. I saved both our lives because we were both supposed to go down to the fucking Trade Center that morning, because she was on Italian time and waking up at 6 a.m. and going, I'm hungry, get up, and we're going somewhere. We're going into the city. So she wanted to go down there. I told the story on the channel before. Anyway, so my infidelity actually turned out to be a blessing, or at least that's the way I look at it, to make myself feel better about being unfaithful. But anyway, complete digression. So I go back to the apartment, and there's Brescia girl's father. I'm like, oh, he's still here. He was supposed to leave today. He's still here. He's sitting on the chair. I'm like, how are you, sir? Are you okay? Your flight was canceled, I assume. Oh my God. And the poor man sat there for 4 days until eventually calling the airline 10,000 times a day. Eventually they said, okay, we can get you on a flight out back to Italy. And the man, he had no interest in going into New York or seeing Central Park. He didn't give a shit. He's from fucking Desenzano, fucking paradise, and he's loaded. There's nothing in New York that would interest him at all. So he's like, what am I going to do? Bring the guy for sushi? Like, give me a break. So he just sat there until eventually his flight was available. And I was on the phone going, I'll take care of him. Yeah, I'll, make sure he gets to the airport and gets his flight. So her dad, she wasn't around. So she must have gone back with my brother to Dublin, I guess. Anyway, he eventually got the flight and got back to Italy, thank God. So all my bandmates were in Ireland getting their visas. They had just lived in New York for 2 years. And now they're seeing New York all on TV screens in Ireland. At the most ridiculous thing that ever happened in the history of the world. Probably one of the most crazy spectacles. Terrifying spectacles. But I was there. I was the only one in the band who actually was there to witness it. And then eventually they came back and life moved on. It was a very weird moment to be in New York, but New Yorkers are resilient and they just picked up and kept going. And on we went. And eventually, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but eventually she started turning into something that I know far too well, unfortunately, in Italian women. Eventually they start barking. Somebody's mentioned this before. Was it Joe LaFaro or somebody in the audience? Italian women eventually start barking at you. It's just their way. And it's a problem with dating an Italian. Here's the thing. When an Italian man meets an Irish girl, and that's happened a lot in history, it works. When an Italian woman meets an Irish guy, it's tough. So Italian men are very pushy, right? They're like, ciao, bella, give me your number. You're so beautiful. I want your number. I want to give you a kiss. They're real pushy fuckers. They've got no shame whatsoever. They just go give me your fucking phone number the second they meet some girl. I'm generalizing, but you get the point. So because of that, Italian women are very standoffish. Italian women are tough to meet and talk to because they expect men to be pigs. So they stand there with their arms folded and they're like, go away, fuck off. That's their thing because they're used to this bombardment of Italian men trying to hit on them constantly. Oh, I want to make love to you all night, this kind of shit. And they're like, oh, go fuck yourself. Get out of here. I'm here with my friends. So they have a standoffish nature. It's the opposite in Ireland. Again, I'm generalizing, but it's the opposite. It's Irish women. Irish men are very cordial in many cases and very proper. And they're like, they'll ask the girl out in the most polite way and they'll give her a little kiss on the cheek and they'll walk her home and they won't want to come up and they'll take it slow and they're nice and cordial. I'm generalizing. There are plenty of exceptions. but I'm just keeping things general for comedic purposes, okay? For telling the story. So as a result, the Irish women are real pushy. The Irish women are like, give us a snog. A snog is like a kiss. You know, they're kind of pushy. Once they like a dude, they're just like, come here, you know. Here's me tits. You know, Irish women are they're forward, okay? So what happens when an Italian dude goes to Dublin? It's a bonfire, because they see these Irish girls. All of a sudden they see boobs, because Irish girls have boobs. They don't have an ass like the Italian girls, but they have the boobs. They're opposites. The Italian girls all have brown eyes. Every fucking Italian girl in the world has brown eyes. So they get bored with brown. I love brown eyes, but the Italians are bored with brown eyes. So the Italians go to Dublin or Ireland and they see girls with green and blue eyes and they go, holy shit, like that's fucking beautiful, you know? She's got huge knockers and blue eyes, or green eyes, even better. So the Italian boys are like, ciao, bella, you know, give me your number. And the Irish girls are like, fuck the number, just give us a snog. Let's go, you know? So it's electric. It's electric. Whereas an Irish guy with an Italian girl is very like, well, would you like to go for a lunch, you know, or whatever? And the Italian girls are like, maybe, you know. They're both standoffish. So it's the wrong mix. But it doesn't stop there, because Italian girls will eventually drive you fucking nuts. I'm sorry. I have detailed files, unfortunately. You can't contradict me on this. I know far too much about it. Eventually, especially if she likes you, she will begin to look at you and hate you. So Italian girls in the first 3 months are like, you're their world. They're obsessed. You're everything to them. Oh, mi amore. But then eventually they'll start going, he's such a fucking asshole. You know, they'll just start getting these ideas in their head. They'll start getting jealous. Every other woman is a threat. And they're just like, and you're such a fucking pig. I fucking hate you. And they start going like this. They start yapping. And when you do that to an Irish guy, Irish people don't do that to one another. So an Irish guy is going to go, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm a pig? How could you say that? Oh, I fucking want to break your face right now. What do you mean you want to break my face, baby? I thought you loved me. You know, an Irish guy's going to take it personally. An Italian dude won't. So let me share a little bit of info. My daughter's mom, who I love to bits, she's fantastic, amazing, splendid, a very beautiful woman. She eventually started doing that stuff with me. And I was the center of, now I need a fucking smoke and a drink. I was the center of her fucking vitriol and her ire for a long time. Everything that was wrong in the world started with me, you know? And it wouldn't be a very strange situation if I was at a bar or a restaurant sitting there trying to enjoy a meal or a drink or whatever, and she's sitting at the other side of the table telling me what a fucking loser I am, or how much she despises me or whatever, you know? And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm fucking getting a headache, you know, I can't deal with this, you know? And I was sitting at a bar one, this is a realization I had. I was sitting at a bar outdoors in Vicenza, beautiful, right under the Basilica, fucking picturesque. And she's doing that stuff. And I'm like, you know, shaking, like, give me a fucking drink. I can't sit through this. And she gets up and goes to the restroom. And near me, there's another table, and there's another couple doing the same, but they're both Italians. And that girl, I overhear her doing the same stuff. You're, oh, fucking hate man, and you're such a pig, and so on, right? She's doing the same exact shit to her boy. But there's one big difference. He's Italian. So he's like this. He's like, see. Oh, yeah. See. And he's just looking around like this. And she's like, you're such a fucking, I fucking just can't stand you. And and he's like, yeah, see, oh, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, of course, absolutely. And he's looking at other girls' asses as they go by. And I'm just going, that's how it's supposed to work. She's supposed to be allowed bark at him. And he's supposed to just not give a shit. Now it works. All the shit she says, the horrific, horrible, insulting crap, is just brushing right off and water off a duck's back. He simply couldn't care less. And in an hour, he'll be fucking her back at the apartment. And I'm like, it all works that way. It doesn't work this way, whereas I'm taking it personally. I shouldn't be taking it personally. I should be going, see. Oh, she has nice ass. See. Oh, yeah, you're right, baby. You're right. Absolutely. No problem, baby. This kind of thing. But the Irish just are not like that. There's an incompatibility in cultures. Incidentally, going back to the Italian guy and the Irish girl would never bark at her boy like that. So the Italian guy has a smile on his face all year round because the Irish girl is just going, would you like a cup of tea, love? We don't do that kind of shit. So the Italian dude is like, this is great. She's got a huge pair of knockers, big blue or green eyes or whatever. And she fucking never barks at me. I'm in paradise. And not for nothing, all those Italian, Irish families in America. The father's Italian. The mother's Irish. She's from Ireland. But my father's Italian. That kind of stuff. And it fucking works. So getting back to this Brescia girl coming all the way back to my brother, she starts barking at my bro. And my bro's a sensitive guy, and he's a smart guy, and it just starts getting to him, And she barks and barks, and I already know this shit from my history with my baby mama. I'm like, oh God, he's going through that stuff now. Like nothing he can do is right, and it just wears him down. It wears him down. And we all started feeling like, oh my God, he's got to get out of that relationship. He's got to dump this girl, get rid of this girl. And she was very fixated on things. She put on a lot of weight for a while. She started eating like so much. She started ordering Chinese like every night. And then one day she just flipped and she just went to the gym and she became a gym rat and she just turned into a stick. All the boobs disappeared. Everything disappeared. She turned into this athletic stick of a person. We didn't recognize her anymore. So we're like, oh my God, it's her. She has a fucking 8-pack. She just started getting fixated on the gym. And I was like, this woman is obsessive about things. It's 0 or 10. It's nowhere in between. She doesn't know how to balance anything. Everything has to be super extreme all the time. Well, eventually, and here it comes, guys. Eventually, she started getting work. She's a trained dentist, like her father. She's a qualified dentist. But she couldn't do dentistry in America. You need different qualifications. So she was working as a hostess in restaurants in New York City while we were gigging all over the place. And she started getting a lot of work as the hostess. You walk in and this smiley Italian woman goes, welcome, let me bring you to your table. And if you need any questions, this is your waiter and blah, blah, blah. The hostess, big smiley face, very social. and not afraid to show her assets and her legs and all of that. And she started doing a lot of that in New York and making good money doing it in flashy restaurants around New York City. And she was sent from different restaurants, Oh, this girl's going to be great. She's a great hostess here. You'll love her. So she was working in different places. And they eventually broke up, my brother and her. And frankly, we were relieved because she was a lot. She's a great person and all. It's fine. There's no hard feelings, but I'm just really glad that came to an end. It needed to. It was bad. And I'm glad my brother got out of that alive. Because I was, at certain moments, I was like, this guy's got to fucking jump off a bridge or something. Like, she's driving him nuts. She's driving him crazy every single day. And they broke up. And we continued on being a band and gigging and all of that. And she continued on being a hostess in flashy restaurants in New York City. And one day, one of the restaurants, I don't know which one, Anthony Bourdain walked in. At the time, he wasn't famous, or he was just becoming famous. Or he was already, or maybe Kitchen Confidential was already released as a book. He was on the beginning of his fame, but he definitely became more famous later. He walked in to the restaurant, and a very smiley, big busty Italian girl brought him to his table, and he fell in love, and they got married, and they had a baby, and her name is Ottavia Bourdain. That's Anthony Bourdain's wife. I shit you not. I know her as Ottavia Buzzia. That's her original name. I knew her as Ottavia Buzzia for all those years. She's known to the world as Ottavia Bourdain. When Tony passed away that time, tragically, everything went to her. Are you shocked? You should be. Now you know a lot about that. It was funny as well because he kept getting more and more famous. And his show on CNN, was it on CNN? Yeah, I think it was. Parts Unknown, right? Or whatever. Anyway, he got more and more famous. And then sometimes they'd show his family life. And he started talking about the fact that his wife was obsessed with jiu-jitsu, and that's all she could do was jiu-jitsu. And he got into jiu-jitsu for her, to partake in her passion. And I remember seeing it going, there it is. That's Ottavia. There she is. That's what she does. She gets fixated on something, and there's no taking her off it. That's Ottavia, and they had a baby too. I think they had two. I don't know. At least one. The time my brother met Tony Bourdain because he went over to congratulate her when she had her baby. And he went over to their apartment. He said it was a fucking amazing apartment, of course. And he met him as well that time. That's Ottavia Bourdain, guys. Now you know. Crazy story. She's great. She's a lot of fun. We saw her a while later. It was my brother's 30th, and the girlfriend he had at the time, she was Latina, but American Latina, whole other level. And I don't know why, but myself and the singer in the band, we were picking who was to show up at who to invite to the surprise 30th birthday party. I don't know what we were thinking, but we invited Ottavia. It's a stupid idea now that I think about it, or what the fuck we were thinking. I had the conversation with the singer, do we invite her or not, And we did. And she showed up at the fucking birthday party. And that, of course, was the last thing that my brother's new girlfriend wanted to see, this bitch. So in came up. We were in this, a friend of ours had a bar and we had the whole lower level for the party. And everybody's there and all of that. And I'm like by the door with a drink going, is she going to fucking show up? This is a mistake. We shouldn't have done this. This is going to be a cat fight. And then comes Octavia. I'm like, Octavia, what are you wearing, for crying out loud? Is that a skirt or a belt? Like, what the fuck are you? Oh, Jesus, you're not making it easy on us here. And she's like, Oshino. She used to always call me Oshino. I haven't seen you so long. I was like, yeah, great to see you. Listen, just go up to my brother and wish him a happy birthday and shake his hand and leave. Don't kiss him or anything. Don't fucking give him a kiss on the cheek or anything, because his girlfriend is going to kill you on this. She's going to eat you on the spot. She goes, don't worry, Yoshino. She goes, I understand. She's probably very jealous, but if I was in her shoes, I would be the same, she says. So don't worry. I'll be nice and then I'll leave. So that's what she did. That was the last time I saw Octavia. When Tony passed away, I reached out to her, but I didn't hear back from her. I think she was inundated, obviously, and devastated. Even though they weren't together by then, they had already broken up. He went over to that fucking shrew, that fucking Asia Argento, worst person on earth. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Poor guy. He was very unlucky with women. But my brother had spoke to her, when she was going through that stuff. Poor old Bourdain went to Asia Argento, of all women. He's like the butt end of jokes here in Italy, because every Italian knows Asia Argento. She's bet down. Horrible bitch. I don't know. I remember him saying he wanted a Sophia Loren. He said, this is his quote. With Octavia, he said, I thought I was meeting Sophia Loren, but I was meeting Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's what he said. God bless him, man. I would have gotten on great with that dude. My ex, the doctor, was obsessed with him. I remember telling her this story. She barely believed it until she finally kind of figured out, like, he's not fucking making this shit up. Holy shit. She was obsessed with Bourdain. I remember telling her, like, because he was alive at the time. He passed away while we were together, actually. But I remember telling her, like, there's a mild chance that you could meet him. Like, when I bring you to New York the next time, I brought her there a few times. I was like, if I bump into her, like, he might be around. You never know. There's only 1 degree of separation. And I said, he would love you because you're Sophia Loren. You're that classical Italian elegance, high level, super elegant, Italian luscious kind of cappuccino complexion kind of Italian girl that he's been looking for the whole time, but you never met, So I was like, if that ever happened, like, I'll step away, I'll step aside, like, no problem. Like, you guys are fucking made for each other, he's fucking 6'3" and you're fucking nearly 6 foot, so it'll work. I was modest about it. I'm a realist. But of course, it never happened. And instead, he went to that fucking Asia Argento, who broke his heart and was probably one of the reasons why he came to his demise. Terrible. Anyway, there's a story for you. Can you believe it? I better go over to hang out with Dirk. It's 20 minutes into his show. I'll just pick up a couple of comments. AP, well, now you can't end who needs a drink. It was too good. I figured I'd go out with a bag. Fishing and listening to your share your story. Awesome, Nick. Oh yeah, you're fishing. That's so nice. Asia Argento, Mr. Mustangrick. Argento. She's Dario Argento's daughter. Dario Argento is a very famous Italian director. He directed a lot of horror movies in the 70s. He's kind of a mythological guy here. Like he's an epic dude here. He's an icon. So she grew up. She's privileged fucking Nepo baby bitch. Oh my god, she's Romana as well. She's from Rome. Don't get me started. Don't ever attempt that. Roman women are not human. I don't know what the fuck species they are. They're a completely different species. Worst possible. He went from the frying pan into the fire going to that broad. Man, he should have just taken some time off to regroup and met himself finally a proper Sophia Loren who would have saved his life. But instead he walked into that quagmire of a cow who didn't appreciate him. See, Anthony Bourdain is not very famous here in Italy. He's a chef from New York. The Italians don't give a shit about that. They're like, what the fuck do those guys know about food, right? So they don't care. He never really translated here. My ex knew him because she loved international TV. She'd watch American and British TV, and she loves travel. Big travel person and a big foodie. That's the only reason she knows or knew Anthony Bourdain from his shows. But the Italians didn't care, and least of all, Asia Argento, she didn't appreciate the guy. It's a funny thing, though. I thought of this because my brother had a huge influence on Ottavia. Like, huge. We were together for years. And my brother is politically the same as me. Okay, whether you agree with her or not. So my brother would have had conversations with her about the Middle East and about the, South America and the Monroe Doctrine, and probably was talking about Noam Chomsky, hegemony, and all of that shit, right? He's pretty lefty like I am. And that no doubt rubbed off on her. And many years later, Bourdain, who's half Jewish, did a Palestine-Israel episode, and he was always in Palestine for most of it, eating their food and enjoying. And he got a ton of shit, of course, from all the Zios in America for that. But he's like, fuck you, I don't care. They're great people. And he won an award, like a Palestinian something or other award. And there's a famous speech, if you look on YouTube, of him accepting the award and talking about the Palestinian people and their removing their identity was the most shameful part of it. And he thanks them from the bottom of his heart. And I remember thinking, I wonder if he got that from Ottavia, like pillow talk, I wonder, was he influenced by his wife? I'm sure he was, which came from my brother and our leftist ideas, of course, from Ireland. We fought colonialism and the ethno-state and all of that ourselves. So I wonder, did that have an effect? I don't know. Who knows? But it's interesting to connect the dots. MJ Brennan, is she an MMA fighter? I think she's still very, very involved in that stuff. That's her big passion. Yeah, she does all that jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and all that. It's like she's crazy into it. She looks very different. She looks all gaunt and ripped. Very different looking. Jim Patterson, Bourdain needed a good dentist. Yeah. I swear to God, I said that to my ex. I'm like, if by any chance there is a small remote possibility you could actually meet this dude, if the right people are in the right room at the right time when you're in New York with me, who knows? And I'm like, you two will definitely fall in love immediately because you're fucking smoking hot, right? And he's going to notice you. And you're obsessed with him. I'll fucking step away. I'll step away. Shit, I know when to step away. I'll step away and wish you guys the best. I'll sleep with you one last time, and that'll be that. It'll be like that film Closer, the revenge sex. Eddie, that's interesting, man. It's similar with Mexican gals and non-Mexican guys here in the US. There you go. Probably a sangue caliente, right? It's rough. There's Michaela. Great to see you. Happy Friday to you, darling. Lefty, 1999. 50 SARS, whatever they are. Where are they from? Is that South? Is that Arabia? Okay, I don't know. What's your opinion on Nico doing raffles for watches? Horrific. My opinion on that guy in general is fairly horrific. Yeah, he's doing that. It's cheesy, low, bottom of the barrel crap. Kieran O'Connell, that actress is called Emily Simmons. Marilyn Chambers in Home and Away. Who are you referring to? Why can't I make that connection right now in my head? It's been a long night. I better go over to Dirk. Feel bad. Let me just check that I didn't miss any super chats. Tax Pro. Yes, I got you. And I got everyone before that. All right. Hope you enjoyed that story. I hope I'm not in trouble now. Fuck. Oh, man. My brother will be like, did you have to tell everybody that story? Jesus fucking Christ. But I think it's really, really interesting. And I think he had a great influence on the woman. Shane McGuirk, $10. Storytelling is an Irish art. Well, the story tells itself, I think. But thank you for that compliment. Great story, says Monster. Yeah. All right, guys. Lefty, I got your super chat. Sorry, man. I was just, you know me, I go off on a rant. This is why people don't super chat much, because they're like, this guy isn't even looking at the screen. He's all staring. He's pontificating and staring, romanticizing his past. You're right. All right, guys. I'm going over to hang out with Dirk. I spoke to someone earlier today who knows a lot about what goes on with the algorithm. And he informed me that some of you won't be knocked over the dirt because of the size difference between our channels. It's a ratio thing. So there's the answer, finally. Thanks for the super chats, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I might do it next week. I might do Who Needs a Drink. Depends what happens during the week. I might decide to have a guest on or something. But if I don't show up, you'll know why. Okay? And don't beat me up for it. I'll be working on a good video that you can play over and over again or whatever. It'll be something a little bit richer. Where is Dirk? Is he live? He better be live. He's got to be live by now. You just don't know where he is. He's on the iBashers channel. I'll leave you the link right now. Yeah, he is live. He's there chatting away. He's got 40 in the room. Let me, I'll give you the link right now in the chat. So some of you can just leave this play, and when I end it, you'll get bumped over automatically. Some of you won't. So there is the link right there in the chat. Just click on that. Come over and talk with myself and Dirk. I want to talk about Baby Girl. I saw Baby Girl last night with Nicole Kidman. Holy shit. Talk about that sexual stuff. Like, that was really sexual. It was intense. So I want to talk to him about that and about Conclave and other movies. So come on over. There's the link. It's right there in the chat. Just click on that. I'll see you guys there in 10 seconds time. Ciao for now. Peace, love, and beautiful watches.